Hey, everybody. I want to talk to you today about when you should see a medium, and maybe just as importantly, when you should maybe think about not seeing a medium. And that might sound weird to you because I do advocate for the use of mediums. If you've listened to me before, I think mediums are great. I think it can be an extremely healing experience to reach out to your loved one across the veil. There's been studies that have actually shown that an excellent medium reading can be as important as a lot of grief work, maybe even a year spent on grief work. So medium readings are great, but um, you need to make sure you've got the right expectations when you go into a meeting and to a reading with a medium. And you've got to make sure that you're prepared. We're going to talk about how you can do that. Um, when you go into a reading, it'll give you an assurance that your loved one is still okay, that they're still with you, that they continue. Mediums can even sometimes tell you about current events going on in your life that your loved one has put into their head, like a vacation that you might have taken recently, or even what you had for lunch the day before, or something that you've done. Like my wife was shopping, and we had a medium call up who's a friend, and Shana had dropped in and said, "I'm seeing green material." And she said, "Are you buying a pool table or something?" And my wife said, "Well, no, but yesterday I was shopping online for green muslin for a green screen that she was going to make for her Zoom meetings." So things like that can be very, very validating when your loved one says, "Hey, I see you," and they tell the medium that message and they give it to you. So those can happen in medium readings. So that can be a really, really great thing. But the bad thing is, if you go into a reading without the proper expectations and you're not prepared, it can do more harm than good. And I've heard of people that go to a medium reading and they get so worked up because they really, really want to connect with their loved one that if they happen to have a bad reading, they're devastated. And it's almost as if their loved one has died all over again. They feel like they've lost them again. And they begin to doubt whether their loved ones even still exists there on the other side, all based upon this one bad reading. So when we're in grief, we can make irrational decisions, and that's one of us seeing people make. I had a bad reading, and they really fall apart. So let's try to figure out how we can maximize the chances you're going to have a good reading. So one of the things is timing, and I mentioned timing and expectations. So we'll take those one at a time. Um, as far as timing goes with the medium reading, I've heard a lot of mediums say that you want to wait for a couple of months, up to 6 months before you have a reading. And some say that's to give their loved one on the other side a chance to adjust to where they are and maybe give them a chance to learn how to communicate with mediums back on this side. And some say it's for us. But for whatever reason, they say it's probably best to wait a few months because we're in that deep, deep, heavy grief at the very beginning. And we could have emotions that could actually block the connection. And so we might want to put that out. I also talk about how medium readings actually work if you don't understand. For most mediums, a reading is almost like a game of charades. They'll see things, they'll hear things, they'll feel things, they might smell things, they'll have thoughts placed in their head, but it's not a direct communication. It's not as if your loved one is sitting there whispering into their ear and they're going to give you the exact words your loved one is giving them. I'm not saying that cannot happen. That's more of closer what's called channeling. But for most mediums, it's almost like a game of Pictionary or charades. They're getting symbols. So you're going to have to work with them to help figure out what those symbols mean sometimes. And I'll give you an example of that. I was in a reading once, and the medium asked me if I traveled to Thailand. And I said, no, I hadn't been to Thailand ever, let alone recently. Then she asked if I'd been to Asia. And I said, no, I haven't been to Asia. So finally she said, let me tell you what I'm seeing, because this image kept coming back to her. You know those little Buddha statues? I see those. Okay, now suddenly it made sense to me when she said Buddha statues, because I had been buying Buddha statues since Shana had passed. I bought one for my TV stand. I had one on my deck outside. I bought one for my altar upstairs. I have one in my hallway. So it made sense to me when she said Buddha statues. But she was getting an image and she was trying to interpret it. And that's what mediums do sometimes. Sometimes it's best for them to just give you the raw symbology or symbol, because when her interpretation was based upon what she knew, and when she saw Buddha statues, she thought about Asia. She didn't realize this was literally Buddha statues in this case. Um, I'll give you one more example. In a reading just a couple of weeks ago, I was with a medium. She asked me about Buffalo, and we thought Buffalo, New York. I have no connection to Buffalo, New York. So I said, no, I don't have any connection to Buffalo. And she said, how about Buffalo, the animal? And I have no connection with Buffalo, the animals. So I thought we were kind of moving on, but she kept coming back to Buffalo. And finally, she said something about restaurant. And when we put Buffalo with restaurant, I thought of food. And when I thought of food and Buffalo, I thought of buffalo wings. So I'm like, buffalo wings, what's that got to do with anything? Well, the night before, my daughter Kayla had been over, and Kayla only comes over once every few weeks, and we had buffalo wings. So I think this was Shayna's way of telling the medium to tell me, I was with you last night when you had those buffalo wings. So I give these to you as examples of how mediumship works. And so you understand that it's not necessarily straightforward. So two things. One is when you go into a reading, you need to expect to have the medium kind of work with you. You're probably not going to hear some secret phrase like you want to hear it exactly like your loved one's going to give it to them. I'm not saying that can't happen, but I really don't want you to go in with that expectation and think it's not a good reading unless you hear something exactly. The other thing is you need to be in a type of state of mind where you can work with the medium, where you're clear enough to interpret these symbols along with them. If they say something like buffalo, what else could that mean besides literally buffalo? If they say something like, Buddha statues, what might that mean? Not the literal thing, but what might it relate to? So being ready for that is going to help you have a good meeting, a good reading. So as I talked about earlier, you want to take some time before you go into it. So we want to make sure that we're in a good frame of mind. There's no precise amount of time you need to wait before someone passes. People have come through right away within days or hours. And sometimes I know a guy who tells a story about someone that said they were going to try to contact their loved one right away after they crossed over. It was like 16 years before this person made the connection, because time is very, very different on the other side. So it might be a while. I'm not saying it's going to be 16 years. It's usually not, but it might be a while before you hear from your loved one, but be prepared when you go into it. And make sure you're through that really early, deep, heavy grief, because a reading is a three-way communication. You, the medium, and your loved one. You're called the sitter in this case. And energetically, the three of you have to be aligned. So you need to be able to work with that medium, and you need to be in the right frame of mind to be able to do that. So for those reasons, again, I said, wait a little while. When you go into the reading on the day of the reading, be prepared. In fact, even the day before, you can start praying to your loved ones or meditating, asking for the right people to come through, asking for the highest good to be done. Make sure you're at your appointment on time. If you're going there physically, get there early. If it's on the phone, make sure you're in a quiet, comfortable place. You put the kids away if you've got children, or the animals away if you've got animals. Make sure that you're not inebriated. People do, believe it or not, going to readings inebriated. That doesn't do any good. It's okay to be skeptical. In fact, I think it's good to be skeptical. If you want to give the medium a different name before you book the reading, that's fine. You don't want to feed the medium. You don't want to give them information during the reading, but you want to be friendly. You want to be open energetically. You want to be rooting for the medium's success. People go in the reading sometimes where they're adversarial with the medium. I don't know why you pay for a reading and do that, but it's happened. You want to go in and hope and wish for the best thing, expect the best thing. Like I said, be skeptical, but be cooperative. And your reading can be a very, very healing experience. And I think it will be if you kind of follow these guidelines. Make sure you get a good, reputable medium, get references before you go, someone that you trust. Skepticism is fine, but you want to have someone that you feel, is not a cheat or a liar or whatever. And if you do happen to have a bad reading, first of all, going in is a possibility. If it happens to happen, then just say, hey, this is a bad reading. It doesn't mean the medium is bad. It doesn't mean my loved one doesn't love me. It doesn't mean my loved one doesn't want to talk to me. Doesn't mean that I messed up, for some reason. All it means is on this day, at this time, with this medium, it didn't work out. And it could work out in the future. And my loved one is okay, either way. So those are my real quick thoughts on when to see a medium. Okay. I think it's really great to do. When you might want to wait before you see a medium, and the things you need to do to be prepared to make sure that reading has the best chance of being successful as it possibly can. I hope that helps you guys. Thanks. Have a great day.